All right, welcome to the Jordan Talk-Jitsu podcast. Today I have a special guest. I have Bernardo Faria. Huge honor for me. I figured I'd get it out of the way. I'd say it myself.
No, huge honor for me too to be here with you, Jordan. And thanks for coming to VJJ Fanatics studio as well.
Yeah.
And I said that on every video we made today, but I'm going to say again, I love everything you do on YouTube.
Thank you.
And congratulations for the amazing work.
I appreciate that, Bernardo. Yeah, we just had a really good role. And yeah, I'm really glad we got to do that. I was like, because coming up, I watch you on VJJ Fanatics on YouTube and all these different sources. And it's so cool to meet you in real life. And yeah, you're just as nice of a guy as I expected you to be. So
nice.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, Jordan. And I think we're living on an era where being who you are is important. So
yeah,
I'm glad I am who I am.
Exactly. I think people resonate with athletes more that are more down to earth and less like macho kind of seeming. And I think that's why, a lot of people like you and a lot of people like me, just because we are just such chill guys. So
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And especially in Jiu-Jitsu, like that, there was an era where people were kind of like nose up and arrogant. I think now it's changing. Like most of the guys are all nice. And so I agree with you.
I think it is changing a lot. And what do you think of like how was your experience kind of coming up in with jiu-jitsu and being such a chill, humble guy and competing against guys that are just screaming after their matches, everything like that. Like, do you ever get nervous competing?
Yeah, so I think everybody who takes competition very serious and is doing that for a living and this and that is gonna get nervous. So I used to get nervous a lot. But I think competition is all about controlling that, right? So same time that I would get nervous about it, I would be pretty good about controlling that as well. Yeah. And I think Jiu-Jitsu is a small community and everybody knows everybody. So at the end of the day, they're pretty nice guys, sometimes they can also get nervous and be a little not too nice during the matches and that, but overall, most of the jiu-jitsu practitioners are good people.
Exactly. I think sometimes people, that's kind of the way they deal with their emotions and their nerves, is kind of being all macho and being kind of kind of that way. But then, after the end of the match, they're usually pretty chill after that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And different than many other sports, as jiu-jitsu is a very tight community. Everybody knows everybody. So you got to be nice to each other.
Exactly. I think that's really important. I think just in general, the culture of jiu-jitsu has changed a lot, even because I started 10 years ago. And even back then, I felt like it was so much more almost cultish in ways where if you leave a gym, you're considered a creonch. But now I think people are a lot more open to the idea of changing teams if maybe a gym isn't quite your fit or anything like that. And I really like the way jiu-jitsu has kind of gone, because it's changed a lot. I don't know, how long have you been training for?
I started jiu-jitsu in 2001 when I was 14 years old. And what you're saying is true. When I started, jiu-jitsu was almost like you pick the school you're going to train and that's your family, and if you live there, you're saying no to your family, that kind of stuff. And I think nowadays jiu-jitsu is becoming more professional.
I think so.
So sometimes where you are is not the best fit for your goals.
Exactly.
And you change and everything is good, and I have guys from my gym, for example, that they moved to other gyms and this and that. And I understood that was better for their goals and this and that, and we are still great friends. So I think Jiu-Jitsu is changing a lot on that aspect for sure.
Exactly. And when you left your original team and went to Alliance, that was, your instructor understood and they were cool with it?
Yeah, so I moved to São Paulo Alliance when I finished my college. And my instructor who gave me all my belts, blue, purple, brown, and black, he was one of the guys who told me, hey, you finish your college, it's your time to become who you want to become. And I think this place is not the best place for you anymore. Because it was a small gym, a small town.
Yeah.
And he was the one who told me as well, if I were in your shoes, I would go to São Paulo and train under Fábio Gurgel, which in my opinion is the best coach at that time. Yeah. And still probably is the best or one of the best. And so that's what I did. I went to São Paulo and trained under Fábio. And my first instructor, I still call him instructor, and he's one of my best friends. And so I'm glad I had this type of open-minded instructor back then.
Exactly.
If not, maybe I would be on my hometown still today.
That's the thing, because sometimes when people have that mentality, it can really hold people back. And it'd be such an awful thing. So yeah, I'm really glad it worked out for you. When I left I left my original instructor, I was called a creonch and all this stuff and like a traitor, and they hated me after. It was a really like strange experience, but and I remember at the time I felt really like, I felt like, so like if I quit, I would be like, well, if I switched gyms, I'd be like disappointing them and like almost like a traitor. Like I felt like that myself too. I almost quit jiu-jitsu because of that. So I think a lot of people might have that same experience. They'd rather like quit than disappoint their instructor.
No, I fully agree. And many times I try to think like about my life overall. What were the most important decisions that I took to get where I am, or something like that? And definitely like leaving my hometown, going to São Paulo was one of the top 3.
Yeah.
And then going to São Paulo to New York City as well, because open up a whole new world for me, like America, and I learned from Marcelo Garcia. So for me, changing schools was, I'm very thankful that I never changed it without having any issues. So I went from my hometown to São Paulo with my instructor advice. I went from São Paulo to New York City to train with Marcelo, with Fabio Gurgel's kind of like approval. He was the one who set up.
Yeah.
And I also went from New York City to Boston to work with BJJ Fanatics.
Yeah, that's
with the understanding of Marcelo. So
is that why you moved specifically to Boston, was to work with BJJ Fanatics?
Yeah, so we started BJJ Fanatics in the end of 2014. It was not even called BJJ Fanatics back then. It was called BJJ Super Deals.
Oh, wow.
And I met my business partner, Michael Zenga. I have 2 partners, 2 Michaels, but Michael Zenga. And in 2014, and he invited him to teach a seminar in Boston. I came, we became friends, and then he started calling me almost like every day to ask half-hour questions. And I would call him and tell him what I was doing regarding like marketing on the internet, this and that, things that he was kind of like mentoring me.
Yeah.
And then we became great friends, and he suggested the idea to start this website and start selling. Back then it was DVDs.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we started. Like was selling DVDs with BJJ Super Deals. And then in 2017, I stopped competing. And the business was already like growing. And I had no doubts where to go. I was like, man, I'm going to go to Boston. They both live there. I'm going to be nearby then, and things will work out even better. And then that happened.
Yeah, it worked out good for you. And I think BJJ Fanatics has really changed the whole landscape of jiu-jitsu. Like people from all over the world have access to such high quality jiu-jitsu. It's like, it's really revolutionizing this decade of learning. So yeah, how does it feel to have such an impact on jiu-jitsu as a whole?
Yeah, I always wanted to do something besides just like competing and open up school, like that. That's what every jiu-jitsu athlete does, right? They compete as much as they can, then they open up a school. I always wanted to do something besides that, and I never knew exactly what would be that. But then when we started the first website, I started thinking more about that, and I was like, man, this is cool, and we can probably scale that, make it bigger. And I was very lucky that I learned from my instructor, then I learned from Fabio Gurgel, then I learned from Marcelo Garcia. But how many people have that opportunity, right?
Some pretty high level instructors.
And that's kind of how the idea came out, I was like, wait a second, who had the opportunity of doing what you do? But now what if we bring that to everybody's homes, and that's kind of how we started BJJ Fanatics, let's try to make every single person everywhere in the world to have the same opportunity that you had. And it's very cool to look backwards and see that we're kind of like achieving that.
Exactly. Like I would say, you guys do it better than anyone else, improving jiu-jitsu worldwide. That's kind of like my goal too with the YouTube channel. People tell me, it's really changed their whole game, and their whole gym watches my channel. And just like, it just makes me feel so accomplished and so happy to be able to, because some of these places, like they're in like Bahrain or like all these countries that are kind of like some of them I hadn't even heard of. So like, they don't have access to high quality education without BJJ Fanatics, YouTube.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I can see why your channel is successful as well, because I mean, like at the end of the day, whenever we choose to do jiu-jitsu, especially like some people do jiu-jitsu for hobbies, others do jiu-jitsu for living, as you do. Mm-hmm. I think when we choose that, we're literally like choosing that because we love it. Because
Exactly.
especially like many years ago, there was no money on it. Right now, we're being able to find ways to generate revenue. But so we do that because we love. So we have such a strong why behind it, right? We love jiu-jitsu, and we want to kind of like find a way to bring that back to the community, right? So I found that way through BJJ Fanatics, and you are finding your own way through the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I think that we have such a strong why behind us that no matter what happens, I think we're gonna fight really hard to keep making it happen.
100%. I think people can really see that passion in both of us. And yeah, I think people really resonate with that. And yeah, like, you know, now that you've accomplished like you're multiple time world champion, and like what's your motivation now? Like what is, like, do you have like big goals that you have set for yourself, like or within BJJ Fanatics, or do you have other things you're working towards, or like what is the plan for you?
So I mean, like as an athlete, I didn't accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish. I wish I had won the ADCC, for example, but I ended up never competing because I got 2 injuries, blah, blah. But as an athlete, I'm very happy about my career. And on a business aspect as well, I'm also very proud of what me and both Michaels built. But I think like I have that professional athlete mindset, right? So I want to keep doing better.
Yeah.
So I'm always asking the question of what else can we do in order to benefit the community, you know, like. So I think at the end of the day, what we do is we serve the community, you know, like we, on both sides, the instructors and the customers.
Yeah, I think it's that entrepreneurship mindset that we kind of both have, which is like, how can we do things better? Which
exactly, you know, like you make a goal, you plan something, that's a goal, you achieve that, and then you start questioning yourself, like, and now what else? So I'm always asking the question of what else can we do to the jiu-jitsu community and the fighting community as well, you know, because we also have a website for striking, for wrestling, for judo, and so I'm always asking that question, you know, like, and just today I was talking with you about making a plan of involving you even more, like, so I'm always trying to think like, how can we do what we do better? Is there anything else beside on-demand videos? And so that's kind of like the mindset, you know? So I don't have like a specific goal, but an overall goal of do things even better, you know, like.
Yeah, that's my mindset too. It's like, I don't know specifically, you know, what my videos are going to look like in a year from now, but I know they're going to look a lot better, you know, and
one way or the other, and then you're going to figure out a way, like, and that's how.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that it's pretty similar the way we both think.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably similar with your, you know, jiu-jitsu coming up too. It's like, you know, how can I get better? Even if like, you know, you're a world-class athlete, which you are obviously, it's always like, yeah, like, you know, what can you do to improve even more? And it's hard to find those like little things sometimes because,
I agree.
Yeah, because, you know, people, yeah, it's already so good. So, but yeah, it's like, it's really interesting how jiu-jitsu and just entrepreneurship kind of are very similar. You know, you start kind of at the bottom and then you kind of, you know, work your way up. And I'm sure like when you started jiu-jitsu, you kind of didn't think that it would affect your life so much. And now you'd be making a living through jiu-jitsu, traveling the world, becoming a world champion. Like that's got to be a pretty, that's a pretty cool story to tell for like your life journey, right? Like,
yeah, no, I agree. No, I'm very proud of like what we were building and what happened in my life. I came from a family in my hometown where nobody believed that that would be possible. You know, like I didn't get any support in the beginning, and even the opposite. I got like a bunch of resistance and barriers because in my family, like everybody either become like a doctor or lawyer or engineering, only the traditional type of jobs. So when I said that I would do jiu-jitsu for a living, I was like 15 years old. It was a no. So I had to overcome a lot of psychological stuff in order to make it happen. So it feels really good to look backwards and see that things are working out. And but I'm young. I'm 35 years old, so I still want to do a lot more. You know, like, as you probably feel the same. And
Yeah.
So
one thing I was surprised, I was kind of researching a little more prior to coming here. I was surprised you're only 3 years older than me, but like you've accomplished so much, and I've been watching you for so long. So that's a really cool
and I'm
thing.
bold. That helps too. So I probably thought I'm 42 or something.
No. It's not like it's not that you look old, but no, it's just you've accomplished so much, and world champion, all that. And do you think it helped you? Like, did it help motivate you and people kind of not doubting you, but yeah, I guess like you kind of would have faced some doubt, right? Because before, especially back then, like the opportunities weren't there so much for jiu-jitsu to really make a living.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu is really changing, like in the last, like let's say, like 10 years. And a good example of that, I remember that the first tournament that I ever made money in my life, as a black belt, was in 2009, and I made 1,000 reais, which is $200.
Oh wow!
And I was celebrating as if I got rich that day.
Yeah.
Like, just because no one tournament would pay money, and that tournament paid 1,000 reais. It's $200.
Exactly.
And nowadays I see tournaments paying like there was a tournament in Korea, right? They paid $100,000.
Oh wow!
And I see those super fights. People, so the athletes are making money being an athlete. Something that had never happened in the history of jiu-jitsu. Like the way to make money for jiu-jitsu was not fighting jiu-jitsu, was teaching jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Teaching seminars, teaching at the school, teaching privates.
And fighting MMA too, right? Like
Or switching to MMA. How many great jiu-jitsu athletes we lost because they went to do MMA, right?
A lot. Because I was actually, like I said, I was kind of researching you more and seeing like all these opponents you went against, and a lot of them went to MMA, like
Bochecha MMA, Rodolfo MMA, like every
Carlos.
Karen Sapato, yeah.
Because I knew him from the UFC and PFL. I didn't know
the shoes face. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know he was such a a high level jiu-jitsu
He was,
guy.
yeah. No, he was, yeah. So it's very, very cool to see jiu-jitsu where it is right now, where people can make money like from teaching jiu-jitsu online with us at BJJ Fanatics. They can make money by competing. They can make money by traveling the world, teaching seminars. And nowadays there are a lot more jiu-jitsu schools than like 10 years ago. So that's another market that opened up for who. So it's amazing to see the sport growing. And I think another example of the growth of jiu-jitsu is to see like how many celebrities are practicing jiu-jitsu nowadays.
Yeah.
So like Joe Rogan, Jocko Willing, Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
And
Ashton Kutcher, Justin Bieber, I think is a blue belt too.
So this
Ritchie.
is like I heard someone saying the other day that's the new golf in America. Yeah. But an even more efficient golf, because golf, you pretty much leave your family for 7 hours on a Saturday, and jiu-jitsu, you leave for 1 hour and you come back and look like you did something for 20 hours. Like, it's so intense. So
why do you think it's growing so much?
I think one, it's the only combative sport that old people can do. If you really think about it, like if you're like 45 years old, you don't want anybody punch your face in boxing.
Exactly.
You don't want anybody kicking your face in Muay Thai, right? Kickboxing. Judo, if you're 45, you don't want to be thrown like 100 times, like.
I don't even want to do judo. Like,
same thing with wrestling, like it's too tough. Jiu-jitsu is the gentle art, like so. And I think there's a psychological aspect as well, because in life, how many times you are on uncomfortable situations, right? Mm-hmm. And I think jiu-jitsu teaches us a lot about that, right? Like if someone is on the mount, you can't give up. Like you got to find a way to escape. So if something bad is happening on your life, you can't give up. You got to find a solution.
That's how I felt today when we were grappling, and you almost had me a mount. I was just doing everything I could just to.
And you did a great job defending him. I was thinking about that later, yeah. But I think jiu-jitsu does that as well. Like I roll with you, and 1 hour later, I'm thinking about the rolling. Like I think when you play soccer or basketball, you don't get out of the field thinking about like.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think jiu-jitsu has that.
Yeah, I think with soccer and team sports, it's almost like you can like not blame others for if you lose or whatever, but jiu-jitsu, you only have yourself to blame.
I agree.
So it really keeps you accountable that way.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's a different type of accountability than other sports, because I don't know, if you're playing tennis ball and you miss, it's not a big deal. Like you lost 1 point.
Yeah.
If you're playing jiu-jitsu and you miss, it affects your ego as well. Like you got choked, you got arm bar. So
That's what I've always said, because it's like, yeah, if you're just saying play hockey or soccer, someone that hits the ball into the net, that's like one thing. It sucks, when you lose that way. But in jiu-jitsu, you lose by getting choked out, or you're getting armbarred. That does affect the ego.
Yeah.
And I think some ego within jiu-jitsu, like, it is healthy. I think sometimes people act like it's not, but I think there's like a difference between a healthy ego and an unhealthy ego.
Yeah, and I mean, like, ego is part of humans' behavior, right? So I think jiu-jitsu teaches us that as well, how to manage the ego. Everybody has ego, but you gotta know how to manage that, right? And it's another benefit of jiu-jitsu as well. So
the ego probably is what really helps people improve, right? Because
I agree.
You get, especially in the beginning, you get armbarred, you lose, and that makes you want to get better and not get armbarred anymore, and not lose anymore.
No, I fully agree, 100%. Yeah, so jiu-jitsu is amazing. Like, every human being should have the opportunity, should be exposure to jiu-jitsu at least once. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. But it should be like a school type of sport.
I agree.
And you can see, like, that's what the sheikhs did in Abu Dhabi, right? They understood that. They were like, man, I wanted that for every single kid in this country.
Yeah, they were hiring black belts to come out there and teach.
Yeah, like
for a
hundreds.
Long time. I don't know. Are they still doing that? Do you know?
I think they're still doing that. They have a bunch of programs there with a bunch of jiu-jitsu black belts from all over the world. And I think it's a huge benefit and I think, like, fighting is also part of human nature, yeah. It was like 200 years ago, 500 years ago, and you learn how to fight on the right spot, right? Not on the street or not on
Exactly. I think it's just instinct too, because, like I was telling you earlier, I have twins. They're 3 years old. It's really hard to teach them how to play soccer and other sports, but, getting them to grapple each other, it's not super difficult, to mount each other and take each other down. And yeah, it's really cool. Like, just teaching them so early. Like, we don't spend a lot of time on it, but yeah, I'm really excited to see them grapple one day. I know you have a daughter. She's 1 year old.
Yeah, she's 1 year and 1 month, and I joke with my wife that if my kid was a boy, I would not force him to do jiu-jitsu. He would be able to choose if he wants to do or not. Since she's a girl, she has no choice. Like, she has to do it, because I think it's so important for a girl to learn jiu-jitsu, to learn how to defend herself. Exactly. And I can't wait for...
Because I have a daughter too. I think for 2 reasons. Because one, it is self-defense, but also two, it gives them confidence. That I think that is so important, and for boys too. But I think for girls especially, having that confidence that girls really can beat, like women can beat men. If they have the technique. The strength definitely factors in. But I know, my wife Nikki, I know if she was like in a situation where someone's trying to hurt her, I'm very confident she'd be able to defend herself.
Yeah. No, I agree. And for example, if I had a boy, I would almost like let something happen, and then he would think like, oh, I want to do jiu-jitsu because that happened and I didn't like, and I want to be able to protect myself. Yeah. But if a girl, I don't want to take that chance, I don't want to let something happen to her. It's a girl, so I can't wait for her to growing a little more and start learning how to defend herself,
Exactly. Are you hoping she gets into competition too, or you just be happy?
This part I'm not gonna force. If she wants to do it, she has all my support. If she doesn't want to do it, everything's good the same way. And I think competition, you gotta want to do that. You gotta come from your soul.
Well, exactly. That's how I feel right now. I don't want to compete, and sometimes people almost expect me to, or it's if you're good at something, you should compete and prove it or something. But I don't have the drive to compete anymore. I used to, but I'm 31. Not that I'm old or anything, but I've been competing for almost 8 years in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's at least how I feel nowadays. I have a different mission. When I was an athlete, my mission was to win the tournaments. I was to do the best that I could. Nowadays, I don't train for that anymore. So that's not, and I think that's probably how you feel. That's not your mission. Your mission is to teach jiu-jitsu to as many people as you can through the YouTube.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, my mission is to serve the jiu-jitsu community as much and as deep as I can.
Yeah, I think we have the exact same mindset that way. And I feel if I were to start, competing, that's going to take away time and energy away from my actual goals, which is, helping the community, helping myself as an entrepreneur. So, I think to compete, you really need to have that mindset and that drive. And, did you always have that while you were competing? You always just wanted to, because you were multiple-time world champion. After you won the first one, did you kind of was it hard to stay driven to keep going?
Yeah, so I had all those obstacles that I told you in the beginning of my career, like with my family going against it. And I love all my family. Like my parents are coming next week. They nowadays they love jiu-jitsu too and this and that.
Nice.
But I think all those obstacles gave me a lot of like energy to really do the best I could every single day, you know, like so when I used to train hard for tournaments, I was never that guy who trains 4 times per day, but I would train twice a day. But when I was training, I was training. Like I would in one day I would row for Marcelo twice, Mateus Diniz twice. I would almost make a world championship bracket every single day on every training. Like I'm gonna go the first one for Marcelo, then I'm gonna go for Mateus, then I'm gonna go for John Satava, then I'm gonna go for Marcelo again, then I'm gonna go for Mateus. So I really, really pushed myself to the limit and got a ton of injuries, which nowadays when I look backwards, I think like I could have gone like 5% lighter and maybe I would get the same results. But when you don't know, you really try your best, and that's kind of what I did.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you said the obstacles kind of helped you because, you know, in like stoicism, like Ryan Holiday, he's like he's into stoicism, and he wrote a book called The Obstacle is the Way.
I haven't read that book.
Oh, you've read that book?
Yeah,
oh, no
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like stoicism and like that kind of stuff too.
He's the same one who wrote The Ego is the Enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that as well.
Yeah. And I don't agree with that as much because I think, like I said before, I think some ego is good, but I think The Obstacle is the Way is like such a great title and such a great concept.
I agree.
Too.
No, I agree. And that's true. Like you can face an obstacle and stop and go backwards, or you can jump that obstacle and learn how to jump. And now you have one more skill, you know, like so. So I believe on that as well. Like every obstacle,
exactly.
It's not fun, but should teach you something, you know, like.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times people, you know, when they face obstacles, they kind of like they're kind of like down about it and kind of woe is me, but they don't really understand that these things will help propel them to growth. So I think, like we said before, jiu-jitsu applies so much to life, and yeah, you encounter an obstacle in jiu-jitsu and you want to correct it, get better. So. Yeah.
No, I fully agree. And many days I just stop and think about how amazing is jiu-jitsu. You know, like even nowadays, like after 21 years, you know, because you learn so many lessons, and you change your body as well. You change your confidence. You change your mindset. You change everything. You know, like so it's such a great thing.
Exactly. It gives you purpose too. It gives you something to do. Social.
Yeah,
everything.
The social aspect is huge. Like I was thinking about that the other day. Like, when you were in school, in college, in high school, you meet a lot of people, you make a lot of friends. Outside of that, it's not that easy to make friends, you know. Like, and people
really
are busy, you know. Like, and in jiu-jitsu, like, you make hundreds of friends, you know. Like,
yeah.
So it's
a great example actually. Like me and Nikki, like we were gonna get married. Well, when we got married, we were like 21. And one reason we eloped, like we didn't have actual like a ceremony, because I didn't really have a lot of friends, because like high school was over and I didn't really have a lot of friends from college. But like now, like we got married in Las Vegas, just elope. But we want to get remarried, like have a ceremony, because now we actually have like tons of people that would come to the wedding. It'd be like really easy to pick my groups.
Now it would be even hard to make the party. Like you need to invite so many people.
Exactly, almost I know like too many people now.
You know,
so it's such a great thing, I think, in people's lives. I think that, you know, in my eyes, I feel like everyone should do jiu-jitsu, but it's also, you know, kind of biased that way because I love jiu-jitsu so much.
I agree. Yeah, I wish everybody could at least be exposure to jiu-jitsu once in their lives, you know? And then they make their choice from then, you know, like.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like one of the goals, you know, like expand jiu-jitsu so much that everybody at least hear about jiu-jitsu, and then they can build interest. Because many times, like, especially when you go to small towns and that, people don't know what jiu-jitsu is. That UFC thing, that karate thing. No, it's not that. You know, like,
exactly.
And so
look how popular karate was in like the 80s. Like, well, you were kind of just born, but I know, like, I wasn't even born, but I know like karate was such a popular thing, and it kind of like watered watered it down a little bit, but like, now it's not as popular, but kind of jiu-jitsu is kind of taking over.
It's taking over. I agree. No, I agree.
One thing that really helped karate grow was like there's made so many movies about karate, and like it just made people want to be like badasses and be karate guys,
Yeah, but I think even that's gonna start happening more and more in jiu-jitsu as well. Yeah. It's already happening, right? And many times there are some scenes here and there and that.
Yeah. It's cool whenever I watch a movie and I see something like that, like a rear naked choke.
Yeah, your neck choke. Yeah.
Especially when it's like proper technique too. It's like, oh man, they like either they trained or they had someone good come in and kind of choreograph the stunts.
No, I agree. Yeah. No, I wish I could press a button and fast forward 10 years.
Yeah.
Just to see where we're gonna be, because I'm excited to see like how much this sport's gonna grow.
Well, man, it's grown so much over the last 10 years already. Like I remember when I first started jiu-jitsu, it was so niche. Like
when did you start, Jordan?
I started in 2020. No, not 2012. 2012. Yeah. So
2012.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing jiu-jitsu for 10 years.
Yeah, literally cool. 10 years. Nice. Yeah. So nice. Yeah, it was so different back then, and yeah, it's like, man, it's like I feel like everyone knows about jiu-jitsu. Not everyone, but a lot of people know about jiu-jitsu now. And yeah, it's just going to keep growing. And I think eventually it will be like as popular as soccer. I think soccer is probably the most popular sport there is.
No, I agree. And I think it's already going towards that direction. And especially no-gi. No-gi has been growing a lot lately. And I think relates more with the non-practitioners.
I think so too.
And it's at least the tournaments that are happening nowadays is more like submission oriented.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the crowd want to see, right? They don't want to see a sweep. They want to see like a rear naked choke, armbar, leg lock, whatever.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm excited, and I agree. I think there's a huge chance that 10 years from now or so it becomes like tennis ball or Formula One, or like a really, really big sport that the best guys are really like the celebrities all over the world and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because right now, the same kind of problem with MMA, like not all the best athletes go to MMA because it doesn't have like the best pay, right? So a lot of them go to football or these other higher paying sports, but the more jiu-jitsu grows, you guys see everyone.
No, I agree. Yeah. And one time I was in Europe and then I injured something and they took me to the physiotherapy. That was in Poland. And the basketball team of Poland was in the same place that I was. So I had seen basketball players on TV and this and that, but I had never actually been in the same room with them. And then I was just wondering, I was like, man, can you imagine if these guys learn jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Because they were like 6'7", 250 pounds, jacket.
Exactly.
I was like, oh my God, man, when this guy starts doing jiu-jitsu, open class has no chance for like a heavyweight anymore, because so I think at some point jiu-jitsu is going to start attracting that kind of crowd that normally goes play football, basketball, and so it's exciting.
I think the more MMA grows too, the more jiu-jitsu is going to grow, because that's how I got into jiu-jitsu. I was watching MMA and I was like, okay, I can do that, but then there was no MMA school in my town, so I could only train jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I just fell in love with jiu-jitsu right away, and then I didn't even want to do MMA, but then long story, I did MMA too. But yeah, jiu-jitsu is just like, it's great because you don't have to get punched in the head, it's just
I agree. No,
the
I
main
agree.
thing, right? But did you ever fight MMA?
Never did. When I was like 16, 17, I did like 1 year of Muay Thai, 1 year of boxing. So I was in that teenager phase, and I didn't know what would be the future of my fighting career. If it would be like being jiu-jitsu professional or maybe MMA. So I helped with some MMA athletes, but I started going more towards like being just a jiu-jitsu fighter. That was what I really loved.
Yeah.
And I was questioning that. I was questioning, do I really enjoy getting punched in the face? And I mean, like, I was never that type of kid who likes street fighting and this and that.
Yeah.
And I think for MMA, you need a little bit of that.
I think so too.
You need to enjoy like fighting, not like doing martial arts. You have to enjoy fighting, like being.
I agree, because I never got in fights either. I never got in street fights, and whenever I would take an MMA fight, I wasn't like stoked. I wasn't excited to fight. I just wanted to be over. I just wanted to get in there, get the choke, and be done with. Like I don't want like a war. Where we just punch each other.
I think we were both a little bit too nice for MMA.
Yeah.
We need to be more like bad in order to do that.
No, I totally agree. Do you ever feel pressured though to go to MMA when all these a lot of your peers were doing that?
Not really, like because I was little by little realizing that thing was not for me, you know. Like, and in 2000, coincidence, the first time that I spent some time in America was in 2007 here in Massachusetts, when I was 21 years old, to help Gabriel Gonzaga for one of his UFC matches. So I did a bunch of sparrings with him, like not going like 1000%, because if not he would kill me, because he was actually training MMA and I wasn't. And but that was a test for me as well, you know, because I came back from that trip with kind of like, I enjoy jiu-jitsu more than MMA. So I kind of like tried the MMA for a little bit, even though I didn't compete. And I realized that jiu-jitsu was my thing. And then I made that decision to pursue jiu-jitsu. And I think many athletes, sometimes they do the mistake to be in defense, you know, like they do a little bit of jiu-jitsu, they do a little bit of MMA, they do a little bit of and then they don't become the best on...
I agree.
On anyone, you know, like, so I decided we'll do jiu-jitsu and pursue that. And I had this idea of doing something else besides jiu-jitsu, and then BJJ Fanatics happened, and then it's all history. But that's kind of what I was thinking.
It's kind of funny how life turns out, because I'm sure at the time you weren't thinking, you know, you're gonna have this like worldwide, you know, platform for people to learn jiu-jitsu, and it kind of happened that way. It's just amazing how things work out.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it was definitely over my expectations, because I always dreamed to have a very nice and big jiu-jitsu school, and maybe if that one works, open a second one, maybe a third one, blah blah blah. But what ended up happening with BJJ Fanatics, we can reach a lot more people.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, we want to help people. If you open a jiu-jitsu school, you can have financial goals and that, but at the end of the day, you want to teach like 200 or 300 people.
Yeah.
And with BJJ Fanatics, I feel can teach a lot more people. The same way you feel within the YouTube channel, you know, like, so.
It's funny you say that, because that was my exact like thoughts too. Like, I wanted to open up multiple gyms and, you know, have a lot of affiliations, but then I kind of realized that's actually a lot of work and, you know, a lot of time to commit to.
Yeah.
And like online, it's just like I can teach like thousands, like millions of people even. So
I agree. I agree. And I definitely agree. And I mean, like, the world is becoming more and more and more technology, right? So why not take advantage of the technology as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, it's funny. One cool thing that I started doing online privates, but like not where like I tell them, oh, move your hand here, do this and that, but I review their grappling footage. And and it's just amazing how quickly, like I've got an online student in Taiwan, and man, he's gotten so much better over the course of like 8 weeks. It's just like unbelievable.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's
that's incredible.
I think that's the future of learning in jiu-jitsu. I think like if high level guys get linked up to review grappling footage for people, man.
No, that's such a good idea, and we have thought about it with BJJ Fanatics. We never really find the format yet to make that happen.
I think,
but I want to talk with you more about that.
Yeah. Because imagine that you have so many high level instructors on BJJ Fanatics. If you can link them up with people that, you know, like consumers to review their grappling footage, that's a good business idea.
Yeah. No, at some point we were even building that, and then we kind of put on a hold because we didn't really find the format, but I would love to hear your ideas about that. Chat with you about that later.
Man, I got business ideas all the time.
That's me. Like, you're going to go until like 5 a.m. talking about this stuff.
Exactly. No, I think that's really cool that we have we just have a very similar mentality about all this kind of stuff in general. So
yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, with that said, we'll wrap this up. I don't want to take too much of your time, but yeah, thanks for being on the podcast, and yeah, it was really nice getting to know you too. And
thanks so much to come here and Jordan and to trust on us, and we love what we do as well.
Thank you.
And anything you need, count on us, because I think our mission with everything we do is to serve the jiu-jitsu community. And you're doing such an amazing job that we are very happy to be your partner on anything you need.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you.